what that woman doing to me. Lights come on, I come out. Yeah. Please rise for the Shema. Yep. It's on. It's really touchy.
All right.
But I could not want louder.
Well, it just wasn't coming through at all.
There we go. Now I can hear it on.
Sounds good to me. All right.
Phone calls. Who wants me? Scam likely.
Well, shall we begin? Let's see, what is it? 6:30. Let me grab my talit, which is
Don't be too late with your
up
talit.
here. Suzanne, did we scare you off? Did we scare you away? I'm just kidding. Fair enough. All right. And because we're wearing masks, we have to crank us a little more in the room here. Well, we're going to get started. I know that there are a few more people who are filing in. We want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom to you in the congregation tonight. We have a small but mighty crowd here. Just got mightier, and that is exciting. You at home may notice that I'm wearing a mask. That is because this is what we're calling Mask Shabbat, where we're trying to have as safe a space as possible to be together on this Friday night. So we're going to begin by singing Hine Ma Tovu Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good it is that we are together. Let's join together in singing.
Hine Ma Tovu Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. 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 Shevet Achim Gam Yachad.
We're going to keep on singing Kiva Moed. We are celebrating in this moment that we are together, and we are going to do that in song, and you can use the words right on the screen behind me. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Kiva Moed, Kiva Moed, Kiva Moed, Kiva Moed, Kiva Moed, ya la la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la. Well, we're going to turn to our candle lighting here, and you can find that on page 2. Page number 2 in your prayer book or up here on the screen. And I'm going to ask, is anyone here for a yahrzeit to commemorate the memorial of a loved one who would like to light the candles for us in memory of that person? Any takers? All you have to do is light the candle. We'll do the blessing together. Barry? Yeah, all right. Thank you. We're getting that they can't see anybody but me. I don't know if it's frozen or something. Yeah. Fight against the air conditioner. We got something. And we'll join together in singing Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lecha adlik ner shel Shabbat. Do you mind just giving us a sentence about the person who you're got yahrzeit for?
Well, yeah, my grandmother, Edith Gould, who you might have known.
Yeah,
or the family from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I remember we always used to, we were the out-of-town kids. My parents were the ones who moved out of town. So
Okay.
we always went back there for special occasions. I remember Shabbat dinner was there, and so
That's
it's appropriate. So.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. Let's read together here on page 3. Page 3. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and into our lives. We're going to sing Lechado D together. You can find that on page 20. And when we get to the last verse, Boivis Shalom, we'll ask everyone at that point to please rise to welcome the Shabbat bride. But first, let's join in singing.
Lecha dodi likrat kala ya la la ya la la ya la la b'nei Shabbat ikabela Lecha dodi likrat kala ya la la ya la la ya la la b'nei Shabbat ikabela Adonai echad u'shmo echad Shem u'teferet Delila Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Likrat Shabbat Lechuvanecha Ki Yemavor HaBerecha Nerosh Mekerem Nesuchal Sof Ma'aseh B'chmashtavat Techila Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Hitori Hitoreri Hitoreri Kiva orech Kuri ori Uri uri Shir daveri Devod Adonai Alayila Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela
If you're able to please rise, please do so.
Boi v'shalom Ateret bala Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola Toch emuneh Am segula Boi kala Boi kala Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Lecha dodi likra kala Yalala 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Yalala 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 Yalla yalla la yalla la yalla yalla la Lecha dodi likrat kala Yalla la yalla la yalla la B'nei Shabbat Nekavela.
You may be seated. Should be noted that everybody, by the way, is sitting in the back half of the congregation, very, very far away, so you're safe from us, at least, if nothing else. On page 27, let's read together. Page 27. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Let's see if we can just take a few moments. Maybe, Mark, you can play some pretty music here. Let's take a few moments and see if we can just take a deep breath in and out and welcome in a little bit of peace on this Shabbat, a little bit of holiness and rest and joy. Some stuff that we may be missing throughout the week. We'll ask everyone to please rise if you're able.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed, Le'olam Va'ed. Ya-la-lai, 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 ya-la-lai,
Let's read together on page 30, or on the screen here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, v'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Let's read at the bottom of the page. You are the creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Amen. Let's read together in English on page 32. Everlasting love you have offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them helps give meaning to our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. You can find the Shema on the next page, page 34, or on the screen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Ba'ed.
You may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'elech asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'hisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihyot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Well, we want to turn to the Michamocha prayer here on page 40 in a moment, and let me ask if anyone has something for which you are particularly grateful on this Erev Shabbat. Anybody have a simcha they'd like to share? Okay, Miriam, I will come to you with the microphone.
On Monday, after almost a year and a half of working remotely from home, I'm going to be returning to the office. No, it's a good thing. Instead of feeling like I'm always at work, I'll be able to leave my work in the office and come home. I'm not looking forward to the commute, but other than that, I'm looking forward to being back in the office.
No, don't answer. Anybody else have a simcha that they'd like to share? Well, for that great one and for the fact that we can gather here together, let's join together in singing Michamocha.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Yoratayilo osef eleh. Yoratayilo osef eleh. Adonai yimloch leolam ba'ed. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
You know, in a moment we're going to get to the Amidah, this prayer that begins with a recitation of the names of our forefathers and foremothers. And I should mention that at the very end of this week's Torah portion, we're at the end of the book of Numbers. We're going to traditionally, tomorrow morning, we're going to say after we read the section, Hazak, Hazak, Vanit, Hazek, which means be strong, and we will strengthen one another. That's the way we often translated it. We'll find strength in each other. And as we turn to this prayer in the Amidah, recalling our forefathers and foremothers, I want to, for a moment, just ask everyone perhaps to think of one piece of advice or strength or something that you got from your parents. The idea that we have in this prayer is called Zachut Avot, that our parents deposited good feelings and good deeds and mitzvot into this giant bank, and we withdraw from there, from their goodness. And just like we do for future generations, put mitzvot into this giant bank. And so, so as we're starting the Amidah here and this prayer where we think about our parents, I was thinking on this Shabbat particularly, if we want to, and if you'd like to share one, you certainly can. Otherwise, you can just think about one kernel of perhaps wisdom or some way that you found strength from your parent. Anybody want to share any of those? We can just kind of think about them, and perhaps they can lift us up as we continue our way through our service here. So the Adonai Svatai starts on page 46, and then we'll turn to the Amidah on page 48, and we'll ask everyone to please rise.
Adonai. Ananana Svatai Tiftach. Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai. Ananana Svatai Tiftach. Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai. Ananana Svatai Tiftach. Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai. Ananana Svatai Tiftach. Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Chanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Haste Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah v'Hoshia. Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim. Sohomech noflim ve'rofech olim, Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha b'gevurot umidal melach melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emana tal hachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, v'kedoshim b'chol yom yihalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated if you'd like, and use the words in the Siddur for the balance of the Amidah here for some silent prayer, or just whichever words are in your heart on this Erev Shabbat.
Ose shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'alko Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ose shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'alko Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Uyase shalom aleinu, ve'alko Yisrael, amen. Ose shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'alko Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'alko Yisrael, amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I don't know if you changed over the scene yet, but thank you very much, Nate, for doing that. So what I thought that we would do tonight, a little bit different. We have for many, many years on the second Friday of the month done some sort of learning. Usually it's either an introduction to a new prayer that people may not be familiar with, or it's a deep dive into a prayer that we know already. I can just think off the top of my head that we've done Hashkivenu and Elohai Nitzur, this beautiful piece at the end of the Amidah. And I thought it would be interesting to look at a piece that I think very few folks in this room may be familiar with, and that is this beautiful prayer that we have called Birkat HaGomel. Anyone ever benched this prayer? Anyone ever prayed this prayer before? A few people here and there, maybe. So what I wanted to do is kind of just talk a little bit about what this prayer is, and you can see I have this is not what I would call a deep dive, but at least this gives us a little bit of information on what this prayer is all about and why we say it. And I think it's a perfect prayer for the end of a pandemic. God willing, the end. I need to knock on something as we near the end of this pandemic, at least here, God willing. So what the deal is we have this prayer in our tradition that it's done as part of the Torah service, and it's called Birkat HaGomel. And it is a prayer that says, thank you, God, for enabling me to have made it through a harrowing event. And there are actually some specific events that are listed in the Talmud that we'll talk about in a moment. But it's become much wider over time. And it's a prayer that people say oftentimes after some sort of accident, after recovering from an illness, after avoiding death. You say these words of gratitude for our lives that were spared. And it's a really powerful prayer. It's one of the only prayers that we, at least traditionally, don't do together as a community. It is a solo prayer that somebody, after the second or third Aliyah on a Saturday morning, somebody would go up there and say the prayer, and the congregation actually has a response that we'll look at, and the congregation affirms this wonderful thing. So why don't we take a look at the prayer itself before we keep talking about it? And I've got a couple of just interesting comments here. Most of them come from a prayer book series called My People's Prayer Book, which is a really, really nice series that takes apart each of these prayers and gives us some historical and liturgical context for them. So let's take a look at the actual blessing itself. And if you want to read it along with me, we can read it together here. In the Hebrew, it says, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel lahayavim tovot shegamalani kol tov. And that means, blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who rewards the undeserving with goodness, and who has rewarded me with goodness. And then the congregation responds, they say, Amen. And depending if you are talking to a male or female, you'd say, Mi shigmolcha, or shigmalech, kol tov, And then hu yigmolcha or yigmalech kol tov selah. And that means amen. May the one who rewarded you with goodness reward you with goodness forever. And it's a powerful moment that we have here. Some of you may have been in the sanctuary. We've used this prayer one time only that I can think of, and we have a beloved member who recovered after a battle with cancer. And she changed her name, which is a thing that often is done. And then we said this prayer from the bima afterwards. She said the prayer, and it marks a holy moment, and it's an opportunity, kind of liturgically, to take a breath and to say, "Thank God, I am still here." And so what I wanted to do is just take a look a little bit at the origins of it, and take a little bit of a dive to understand a little bit more about it. So I don't know, do we have anyone who wants to read the bottom of the page where it says origins? And I'm happy to help with any Hebrew. Okay, Jay, thank you.
The origins of the Birkat HaGomel ritual are found in the Talmud, Berachot 54b, in which the Talmud assigns the line specifically to those who have returned from a sea voyage, journeyed through the desert, recovered from illness, or been released from prison. But since then, it has been generalized to mean passing through any general danger. In our time, the spirit of this prayer has expanded to all sorts of other life and death situations, such as surviving a car accident, recovering from major surgery, and during childbirth, even surviving a global pandemic.
So, Larry Hoffman is a professor at HUC who is a liturgist, and and these again came from this place called My People's Prayer Book. If you flip it over, so that tells us a little bit, by the way, the four original that are listed in the Talmud. This is in the Babylonian Talmud, that a sea voyage, you've journeyed through the desert, recovered from illness, or been released from prison. I don't know if that prison of being home with all four children during the beginning of the quarantine counts, but I think it does. And then, so if you flip over here, I want to just mention a couple of things. First, sometimes we read this part of the prayer that says you. Let's see here. Here it is. Blessed are you, God, who rewards the undeserving with goodness. And perhaps we're a little uncomfortable with that. And another rabbi named Neil Gold has an explanation as to why that is part of the blessing. Anybody want to read that? I thought I saw. No, Barry? No, yeah, all right. Okay, I thought I saw a little bit of a.
The sentiment that the supplicant is unworthy of being delivered, the prayer refers to God as one who rewards the undeserving with goodness, echoes the Jewish patriarch Jacob's famous prayer for safety. Just before he was reunited after a long and bitter estrangement with his brother Esau, Jacob experienced a late-night reckoning of the soul, reflecting on the protection he had undeservingly enjoyed from God his entire life. Jacob humbly asked for one more act of divine deliverance. I am unworthy of all the kindnesses you have steadfastly shown to your servant. Like Jacob, one who recites Birkat HaGomel approaches the blessing with a sense of awe and humility for having survived an ordeal, knowing that others have not.
I don't know about you guys, but when I've been faced with a perilous situation, I think it helps you put things in perspective and helps put your position in this world in perspective. And I think the prayer echoes that and reminds us that we don't have control over our lives like we want to. If ever there's a time that we've learned that, it's in the last 16 or 17 months. Isn't that the case? And I think this prayer echoes that. It comes to it from a place of humility and humbleness. And I think that's really nice. Just a couple of other ones here. Maybe we'll just do two of these. Ellen Frankel wrote a really beautiful idea here about the psychological benefits of this prayer. Anybody want to read that? Or yes, Miriam, thank you.
Why do we need to publicly bless God when we recover from illness or escape harm? Is it not enough to thank God in our hearts or in unison with the community? Certainly this is the case when we reap good fortune. Why then do we need to recite a special prayer when we escape misfortune? In adding this prayer to the Torah service, Jewish tradition has shown profound psychological insight. Nowadays, we understand that physical distress and even survival can have unexpected psychic consequences. Trauma, physical, emotional, or psychological, can isolate victims. Surviving a catastrophe, especially when loved ones don't, can produce guilt rather than gratitude. But when we bench Gomel, publicly acknowledging our vulnerability, we summon support from all those who care about our welfare. It is the community's way of ensuring that we remain our brothers and sisters' keepers.
I think it's also a way that we can stand with one another and support each other. And it's the same way that that as we're getting ready for Kaddish, sometimes we'll read the list and we'll ask folks to stand who are observing a yahrzeit as we read that particular name. And I think it's a way for us to be able to, we do that here so that we know who's in mourning, so that we can make sure to comfort the person who's in mourning. And I think that's a very similar reason that the Birkat HaGomel is done in a singular way, and why it's so meaningful after a traumatic event. I wanted to just mention here that that reciting this blessing doesn't blame God for illness and death for people who have. I mean, I'm thinking of the 650,000 folks in our country who have lost their lives. This prayer simply expresses gratitude for our lives, and it acknowledges that bad stuff happens in this world. We don't have control over it, but what we do control is how we can react to the situation we're given, and that we can try and find some gratitude, even in a really desperate situation, having overcome a really terrible circumstance. And the prayer tries to focus us on that, and rather than misplaced anger. Sometimes stuff just happens. So I want to ask, anybody have any comments or questions about this prayer? I think that what we'll do is, if anybody would like to actually recite it, maybe we'll find a time at a service this later this summer or early fall when we have the Torah out that we could invite folks to either say it in a group if you're not up for saying it alone, or say it by yourself up on the bima. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Jay. I'll go to services all the time, that kind of thing. Yeah, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And this is kind of the liturgical way of matching that. The aftermath. Yeah. You're. It's like you're paying the tab from earlier. Yeah, I like that. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else? And it is actually in our Reform prayer book. It's in the Torah service. There's a version that's a little bit different because it's in the plural, but the idea is in there. But we don't have it in its original form in Mishkan Tefillah. So we've got it here, and we'll use it in the future. So this is like the more you know. Here's a new prayer. Here is an intro to Birkat HaGomel. And if anyone wants to do a deeper dive, by the way, it would be fun to do that sometime, maybe in one of our WBS classes or on a Thursday morning Torah study. We can do this. Well, let's turn back into our service. Speaking of overcoming illness. Oh, I just realized I forgot to put that on the screen the whole time. Sorry for folks who are at home. I'll email you a copy of this. And hopefully you are still there. Speaking of overcoming, we turn to the Mishaberach L'Chalim, the prayer for those who are in need of healing. And as always, we'll ask if you know someone on this list to please reach out. This Shabbat, we're thinking of Catherine Adler, Marcia Ames, Marilyn Altman, Lynn Adams, Sarah Bates, Deborah Belford, Barbara Belford, Libby Blakely, Marjorie Black, Paul Branson, Joan Bray, Lee Buden, Dave Sedarquist. We're thinking of Dorothy Cohn, Rob Cohn, Lily Kovitz, Adrian Crawford, Rick Crawford, Taya Delano. We're thinking of Tony Diegler, Carrie Ebert, Elaine Ellick, Don Feibel, Michael Fiorelli, Rachel Fish, Olivia Glick, Jean Goldberg, Rachel Goldblatt. We're thinking of Bernice Goldstein, Jimmy Green, David Haas, David Hirsch, Don Kerr, Jeanette Clayman, Aiden Kramer, Peter Levy, Barb Lucas, Angel Marrero. Thinking of Fred Martin, Minna Melton, Paul Mickelson, Connie Morovic, David Minorovic, Dick Nettleman, Robert Oakley, Nick Parisi, Aaron Phelan, Ian Phillips, Rashi Prostowski, Jessica Rathkoff, Isabel Resendez, William J. Rees, Barry Richmond, Zach Rowe, Arthur Rose, Irving Rose, June Sahara, Ralph Sauer. We're thinking of Barbara Schuster and Amitai Sella, Richard Schur, Lou Sepowitz, Lauren Tate, and Robert Weiss. I ask, are there other names we're thinking of for healing on this Shabbat? Yeah, Maxine. Thanks. We had also Debbie Loeb. Many others. We say, Baruch atah Adonai Rofech HaCholim, blessed are you, God, who helps send healing and strength to those who need it most. Let's join together in singing.
Avotenu mikor abrecha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. B'Shebera imotenu mikor abrecha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
We're going to keep on singing here as we near the end of our service. The second part of Aleinu, which is Bayom Hahu, Mark's song. We can find that on page 287 in your prayer book or here on the screen.
Bayom Hahu Yehieh Adonai Echad. Bayom Hahu Yehieh U'Shemo Echad. V'ne'emar, as it is written, v'ne'emar, let it be said, God rules the earth. On that day God shall be one. V'haya Adonai, the Melech HaKol Haaretz. On that day, God's name shall be one. Bayom Hahu Yehieh Adonai Echad. Bayom Hahu Yehieh U'Shemo Echad. U'Shemo Echad.
As we turn to our Kaddish prayer in just a moment, I'll ask, as we talked about a moment ago, if you are here observing the yahrzeit of a loved one, we'll ask you to, when you hear his or her name, to please rise. And if you have another name to share, we'll invite you to do that afterward. This Shabbat at Temple Beth Shalom, we are recalling the yahrzeits of Mark Anderson, of Diane Axel, Florence Bricker, Phyllis Clark, Sandy Schaefer, and Eileen Schneer, all of whom have been taken recently from our midst. And we remember those who died of the season in years past. We are thinking on this yahrzeit of Hortense Altman, Louis Bash, Shirley Becker, Jeffrey Cohn, Terry Elias, Frederick Fogel, Henry Gerson, Edith Gould, Ruth Hirsch, Paul Johnson, Herbert Lewis, Sarah Owings, Enid Randall, Sam Rich, Arnaldo Roldan, Arthur Schifrin, and David Sokol. We ask everyone else to please rise as we, as one community, join together in our Kaddish prayer. For all those who have no one left to say Kaddish for them, we recite these words. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabba, be'alma divrach yiratei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyamechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudasham barichu. Le'ela minko birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'hayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who sends peace to all who are in mourning, help us to find shalom, to find wholeness and peace and joy in our community. Together we say, amen. You may be seated, and we are going to call our intrepid executive director to join us on the bima with some announcements, even though this is the time of year when, for 1 month, things get very calm here at the temple. There's still a couple of things happening.
Thank you, Rabbi, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone joining us at home. Rabbi is right. It is a quiet week here at the temple. We have Mahjong on Wednesdays, and next week we will be back outside for another outdoors service. But that's about it for the week. We were supposed to have yoga on Sundays, in-person yoga, but we're going to kick that to August. Our resident yogi won't be able to join us. But even though this week is quiet, we have a lot of really exciting things coming up. July 25th is going to be a Clippers Day, a TBS Day at the Clippers. To RSVP, to buy tickets, for any questions, reach out to Engagement Coordinator Leslie Thompson. We're going to have Sprinkler Shabbat on August 6th, which is just going to be a great outdoor Shabbat service, for especially fun for the kids. And I'm really excited to announce, this is kind of bubbled up over the course of the past couple of days. July 28th at 7:30 here in the sanctuary, the Columbus Symphony Orchestra will be performing a strings concert for 1 hour, 7:30 to 8:30 on Wednesday, July 28th. More information coming, where there's going to be a link to buy tickets. You can also buy tickets in person, but it's going to be really cool, especially for something in the middle of the summer. So watch out for that. That's about it. That kind of takes us through early August. If you ever need anything, if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to me. And with that, thank you for making TBS your Jewish home.
And just to mention, that's a Columbus Symphony's program that we're just housing here. That's why you have to buy tickets. We're not, if it were a TBS program.
And it won't be streaming.
There what?
It won't be streaming.
It probably will not be streaming, no, because it's not our program. They're just using our building here. So, yeah, that'd be good. All right. And also, High Holiday information is going out soon, if it hasn't gone out already. I'm looking at Bobby to see if has the High Holiday info gone out yet or not yet?
We're shooting for next week.
So next week you'll get information about High Holidays. We're going to have up to 250 people in this space, and we'll have a lot of outdoor stuff also. Bobby has found us some giant tents that we're going to be renting, and we'll be sitting in chairs, not in our cars. It won't be a drive-in, but it'll be outside. And and we're even working on outdoor air conditioners, one of which we have coming next week to try it out. So we're gonna try and make it as nice as possible outside and inside, and hope for no thunderstorms. So, all right, that's enough of the announcements. Let's join together with Kiddush and Motzi. If I'm Kiddush right there. Motzi, we're just gonna do pretend that this holiday has been to the Temple Bridge for at least 2 months. So I'm not even gonna know that, I guess. Speaking of discussion, with our Manischewitz here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pirei ha'gafim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu b'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon incheltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Okay. Ooh. Never gets any better. All right. I guess we'll just do this with it covered here, unless anybody wants to try the old challah. We're still working on food stuff at the temple. That's what that's our next step to get back to normal. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together
as our joyful prayer is sung. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And we have a closing song. Oh yeah, all right, do this.
Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, be'akulam. Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, be'akulam. Salam aleinu ve'akol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'akol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu ve'akulam. Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu ve'akulam. Salam aleinu ve'akol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'akol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu, Odibo shalom aleinu ve'akulam.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Starting, I think, next week, we're going to have an oneg outside. So that's going to be fun.